one. Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Another special interview today, and boy, am I happy to be speaking to this man. It's been a while. We've been talking a while, but behind the scenes, so to speak, and he's coming back to the UK as well, which and I can't wait to hopefully get to see him when he comes over to the UK. It's the greatest man that ever lived. Is Austin Aries. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Um, I giggle every time someone addresses me like that. It's just such a ridiculous moniker, and so now it makes me giggle when people call me that. So, but yeah, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And again, thank you for doing this. I know you don't do many and you
Sure.
haven't done one in a while. You're going, obviously, coming back to the UK. What I suppose really about the UK, what do you know about the UK scene coming up and what are you most looking forward to about coming back?
Oh man, it's been a long time since I've been over there, and every time I've wrestled there, what I always sense is just the overall appreciation of the fans, because historically they weren't treated to a lot of big name mainstream talent. Now that's changed a lot in the last 5 to 10 years as they've kind of created their own scene, and there's been a lot more crossover. But yeah, you go over the pond and you get to see some people you haven't seen in a while, whether it's fans or other colleagues and such. And there's just an energy and an appreciation there that helps kind of fuel you for your matches.
Yeah, definitely. So we're about in the UK scene as well. We've actually got a championship over in here in the UK that's defending on certain shows. And who knows, maybe if you're over here in the future, you can go one on one with our champion.
I mean, I like championship belts, right? Who doesn't?
Indeed, which actually brings me to a question that one of my co-hosts, Matt, wanted to ask actually you, Austin. He said, obviously you've had many championships in wrestling, you've held quite a lot of titles, and he's asking about what do you believe is the best belt that was ever made in wrestling and why?
Ooh, boy. Well, yeah, I think for a lot of us, we're always going to be a little biased towards whatever time period we got into wrestling, right? When it first really grabbed us. For me, that was the early 80s and the NWA Jim Crockett Promotions. So the 10 pounds of gold, is always going to be the one that in my mind was the first real world's championship. Ric Flair held it, Dusty Rhodes. So, I'm going to be pervy to that one, as far as a fan. In my career personally, the Ring of Honor title at the time when I won that had it had a lot of meaning to it, with Joe's reign, and then just kind of what it represented as far as stylistically and the way we were presenting professional wrestling as an art form.
Interesting. Our actual title, the turnbuckle title, was actually modeled on one of the Ring of Honor titles.
There you go. You got good taste. Yeah.
Certainly, we certainly do. Obviously, you do a bit about seminars now as well. I've seen a little bits and pieces that you do seminars, and it got me thinking. Like, obviously, wrestling has changed a lot. Well, maybe it's changed. It's certainly changed through my eyes in the last 10 years, and I just wonder, like, if you were doing a seminar 10, 15 years ago, what would be the difference between then and doing a seminar in 2024, 2025?
Um, well, obviously the way that you go out and you get your recognition has changed. I mean, so I've been, 25 years in now. So I've seen the business change quite a bit from when I first got in. Social media has made connecting and networking a lot easier. Um, as far as how I personally conduct my seminars different now than 10 years ago. Um, I'm really trying to instill on the men and the women, especially the ones that are new in their career, is to think of this as a business. And from that standpoint, our bodies are that's our merchandise, right? That's our what we have to give. That's our inventory, so to speak. And you have a finite supply of that. So to make sure that you're getting the most return on your investment for every time you give your body up, every time you ask your opponent to give his body up, make sure that you're getting a return on your investment. I use the analogy, if I run a restaurant and I have $100 salad that I'm selling for $10, I'm going to go out of business pretty quick. So the art of pro wrestling is to make a $10 salad and sell it for $100. And what I've seen now is, the style now that's kind of predominant is going back to that Super Juniors Ring of Honor style that we brought 20 years ago. But it continues to be more and more and more and more about the motion and less and less and less and less about the emotion.
Mm.
So we're not getting a great return on our investment for the risks we're taking, for the bumps, the bruises, the breaks, right? And so I really try to instill that, because I think coming from me, a guy that was known for all the stuff he did, is it maybe hits different than if it was some old timer, saying, just work the headlock, kid. But there is some truth to that, right? Like, we have to be the puppet master, and we have to make sure that, everything we do out there physically, we're getting a good return on our investment. So we're not just throwing it away, because I tell you, when you do this for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, it adds up. Physically, it adds up. And you don't feel it in the first 3 to 4 or 5 years in your career. You're young, you got a lot of energy, you recover quick, but all those bumps and bruises and breaks, they add up over time. So I try to really drive that point home, so that kids can go out there and make money and not be broken down before they get that opportunity.
Yeah, that is interesting because I think that's one thing missing over here in the British scene, and maybe you may agree or disagree with me when you come over. I don't know, but what I've seen in the last sort of 2 to 3 years that I've been sort of involved in it or going to see a lot of shows is I think that there's not enough in that sort of the storytelling mantra of it. It's more about the hard hitting near fall after near fall, finisher. And I think there needs to be a bit more, like you say, about let's bring that emotion. I don't see enough of that. I see a lot more heavy hitting stuff. And where you say perhaps that's going to shorten their career, where if they actually work the match a bit more with the story involvement, they're going to have to be a bit more longevity about it.
Yeah, well, and it's just also indicative of like where entertainment's gone culturally, right?
Mm.
We don't, I think of some of the movies in the last, 5, 10 years, but it's all about the action scene and the car chase or the fight scene, and the plot line is kind of secondary. People now, when they consume content, they want it in quick little bites. They don't want to sit for a long, drawn out, in depth thing. It's just not how we've been trained and programmed to consume content, and wrestling's falling into that trap. I'm not here to say it's right or wrong or good or bad. It's just different from what grabbed me as a fan back in the 80s, right? And it was the emotion, and it was the storytelling, and it was also, I think, while I don't think I ever thought wrestling was real, the people who did it never treated it like it wasn't.
Mm.
And so, I think there's that too. If the magician is on stage and he's telling the audience he's not really sawing the lady in half, where's the magic?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I grew up in the 80s myself, and obviously over here in the UK, it was a little bit more difficult to get mainstream American TV for a long time. But when I did, I remember, vividly remember, for example, Jake the Snake biting Macho Man Randy Savage's arm. And growing up as a kid, I was like, shit, this snake has just literally bit this guy's arm. Is he going to die through the snake bite? And things like that, And you say in the 80s, I remember Jim Cornette telling a story where he thought he was going to get killed by doing something they'd done in the ring. I can't remember what the Rock and Roll did. They'd done something in the ring that I think it was something like put a tennis racket over, I think it would maybe been Pillman's throat or something like that. And they'd done this angle where Pillman had that raspy voice because of an operation, and it was adding those elements into it. And you were like,
Macho Man crushing the larynx of Ricky Steamboat, the
yeah,
Horseman breaking Dusty Rhodes' arm. We don't. Here's the thing, I think is lost on wrestlers, because they think too much as we don't remember good matches. We remember moments.
that's it.
Again, we can go back, and I don't want to get back to this, but we go back to the Bound for Glory and the John Morrison match. My whole goal there was to create a moment that people remembered,
Mm.
right? Now maybe it didn't quite work out in the way that I'd hoped, right? As far as there was no follow-up, we didn't get the rematch that we were supposed to have. But if we would have had a great match, nobody would remember that night, but nobody now forgets that night because of what happened after, right? And that was the mindset going in. Hey, let me do something to create some controversy and create a moment in time that people will remember. And the idea was hopefully to motivate them to be so angry at me that they would pay one more time for the rematch, and we'd really cement John as the guy. We just didn't get there for business reasons, right?
Mm.
Um, but so I'm always thinking about that. It's about the moment. How do
Yeah,
we make the moment memorable? I'm always, when I do these seminars, don't try to do something better. Try to do something different, because
yeah,
different sticks out. Different will always stick out. Better is only better until someone does it better. Now you're not right. And then, so everyone's trying to do something better and better and better. Cool. Everyone's trying to do better and better and better. I'm going to be over here trying to do different, because
mm.
over longevity, you'll remember the guy that's always a little different.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And you're right. It is for me. I kind of a lot like you in a way of what we're saying about moments. I won't necessarily remember matches, but I'll remember moments. It maybe could be
Yeah.
a moment in the match, but I'll remember
Yeah.
the moment. For example. So that is exactly how I think. But yeah, I think over here right now, that they don't do that way.
It's everywhere, man. It's the
Yeah.
style. I I've tried watching some wrestling recently, and I
Mm.
just, after 10 minutes, it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So I get it. I've become the old man yelling at the clouds. That's okay. And listen, when I was growing up, my dad with music. Oh, the music sucks nowadays. Back in my day, it was the best, right? We all go through that. I did 25 years. I understand. But the foundational element of pro wrestling works,
Yeah.
right? It works. That foundational element of the emotion of the good guy and the bad guy and the struggle, it works. And we can have all the athletics and the moves and things like that. But if we lose the foundation and the fundamentals of it, now I'm just watching live. I'm watching a live video game with
Yeah.
no emotion, right? I'm watching Mortal Kombat live, and hey, the Jesus character is always going to win out, because who can touch Jesus, right? I'm sure you saw that clip, right?
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
That is, yeah. Although we're not quite at the point where we get the finishing bit of the Mortal Kombat yet. We're close, but who knows? This year, 2024 in wrestling, who knows what we're going to get in 2025. But I want to change the subject briefly, because one of the things that was interesting when I saw on your Instagram stuff was food, and you bought a book as well. You've actually got a book there about food, and obviously being vegan, food fight, which was quite brought me to quite an interesting subject that we were talking about with my co-host, and we wanted to bring up. Firstly, you in November, am I right in thinking you fasted for 44 hours? Was it?
yeah, yeah. It ended up being like, yeah, about 44 hours. Well, actually, it might have. Yeah, it was a little. It was actually maybe might have been 44, something like that. Maybe, yeah, I don't remember the exact time. I think I was going for 20, like, to do a full 24, and it ended up being almost like 2 full days. Yeah.
Jeez.
I've done 3 day water fast before, right?
Mm.
I've done a full 3 days of just of water fast, 72 hours. I've done that. This one was like 44. I try to do it every month or two. I'll do a 2 to 3 day water fast. Yeah.
Coming from someone that has no idea what a water fast is, how does
So
that
you
affect the body?
okay, well, so water fasting is you don't take any calories in. So you want to drink water.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to hydrate yourself. You can drink some tea if you want. You can even drink coffee. I mean, basically nothing that has any caloric content. So what does fasting do? What's the benefits of fasting? Well, there's a few different components to it. One is, we overeat, right? Like we don't really understand what true hunger is. We have cravings, or we eat because we're bored, but we're not really eating because we're hungry. We've been taught this idea that we're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, every day. And if you really think back to when we were hunters and gatherers, we probably weren't eating on that kind of schedule, right? There was probably days where we didn't find food. There was probably days where we went without it. So a few things happened. So after a certain time, without with calorie restriction, no calories, your body's going to go into ketosis. which means it's going to start burning your fat for fuel, which actually tends to be one of the, you'll feel energy because you're burning your fat stores for fuel and for energy, which is a good thing for people who are trying to obviously lose fat. Um, then the second thing is autophagy. And so that happens after about 2 days. So autophagy is when the body starts to actually cannibalize old and damaged cells. So at the cellular level, any old or damaged cells, the body eats them up and creates new cells. So they've done studies to show that by doing these 3-day water fasts on a semi-regular basis, greatly reduces your chances of cancer because all these older damaged cells that could become cancerous are eaten up and replaced by new fresh cells. So it's a way for longevity, to stay younger longer, to reduce any type, to fight and combat illness, things of that sort. So those are just a few of the benefits, and it also just gives your body a chance. We use a lot of energy for digestion.
Mm.
So for that 2 or 3 days that you're not eating, all that energy that you'd be using to digest food is now being used to repair whatever your body needs to be repaired, right? So you're shifting the energy from digestion to other facets of the body, right? So and that's why, like, even just on a day-to-day basis, intermittent fasting is something that I try to do. And all that really means is you close your eating window at, say, 8 o'clock at night, and you don't eat until, say, noon the next day. So you have an 8-hour eating window. So from noon to 8 p.m. you eat, and from 8 p.m. until noon the next day you don't eat. It's not that drastic if you think about it. For most people, all you're really doing is cutting out the late night snacking and the breakfast first thing in the morning, right? So you have your first meal at noon. So maybe you get up and you have some green tea, or you have a cup of black coffee in the morning, or sometimes I'll even do like spring water with just a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some cayenne pepper, a little bit of sea salt, right? A little bit of hydration in the morning, and then you break your fast at noon. So from noon to 8 is your eating window. Some people even do it shorter eating window. They'll do a 4 to 8, 2 to 6. They'll do a 4-hour eating window, so they eat all their calories in that window, and then outside that window, you just don't eat.
Interesting. Is there an element to how much water that you drink during the fasting?
You want to stay hydrated, I try to drink a decent amount of water when I'm also eating. I like to get what I call living water, right? Which is like watermelon, cucumbers, like a lot of our water intake should come from the fruits that we eat, to be honest. It shouldn't be coming from a plastic bottle. There's that brings a whole nother bunch of elements of issues, right? When you're drinking bottled plastic water or even tap water in this country, it's got fluoride in it. It's got a lot of things in there that you really don't need in your system. So where you source your water from is important. But yeah, what you'll find is that, when you get hungry, one way to curb the hunger is, yeah, well, drink some green tea, or drink a glass of water, and it helps. So I don't have a set rule, but I think it's just important that, yeah, during those few days you want to keep yourself hydrated.
Interesting. And obviously, as a wrestler, obviously you've got great physique. You always have done throughout your career. That's one thing that you've definitely done. The interesting is, like, how many calories would you say that you would eat? Obviously, I know you're still a wrestler, but maybe not as much as you were, 10 to 15 years ago. So what was the sort of calorie intake that you would have?
It just depends on your goals, right? There's something called BMRs, your base metabolic rate. You put it in a formula based on your height, your weight, your age, your activity level. It gives you a general idea of how many calories you burn a day just living.
Yeah.
Okay. Based off that BMR number, then you're going to calculate if you're trying to gain weight, then you're going to want to eat, about 20% above that number. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to eat about 20% below that number. So, at times where I'm trying to, put size on, I'll be in the, 3 to 4,000 calorie range.
Mhm.
You know, I'll be honest, I don't really count calories a whole lot. I think there was a period in my time, like especially early in my career, man, I kept food diaries. Before we had all
Yeah.
these apps where you could just do it for you, I still have notebooks where I would write and weigh out every meal and add it up. But for me, that was the education phase of my life. That was where I started to learn, like, oh, a banana has about 100 calories. It's about, 20 to 25 carbohydrates, and each carbohydrate's 4 calories. So your average banana is about 100 calories, about 20, 25 grams of carbohydrates, right? You start learning what things are when you just kind of start teaching yourself, so that now I have a pretty good idea of what I'm eating, what I'm not eating. I think the other thing is we get really focused on the macronutrients, right? The fats,
Yeah.
the proteins, the carbohydrates. We don't think about the micros, right? The micronutrients. Like, are you getting enough vitamins and minerals in your food? What I see is we live in a society where we're getting calorie dense, nutrient deficient food. So we're getting lots and lots of calories without a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals with it. And so while we eat, we're still hungry. Well, because your body didn't get the vitamins, it didn't get the nutrients it needed. Yeah, it got the filler, it got the fats, but it didn't get the nutrients. So it's like, well, your body's still hungry for those nutrients. Now I'm still hungry, and I keep eating the same food, so I'm still not getting the nutrients because I don't eat a variety of food. A lot of people kind of have their 6 things they like to eat.
Yeah.
That's what they stick with. And I think the key, like especially with like a vegan diet, where to eat your protein, well, it comes from a bunch of different sources. I don't get it from one slab of decaying meat for 30 grams of protein. I'll get 9 or 10 grams from these hemp seeds. I'll get maybe 6 grams from this slice of sourdough bread. I'll get another 10 grams over here from some nuts, or I'll get so it's like I but I eat a lot of different food. But it's a what I've come to learn is there's so many different philosophies, and I don't know what the truth is, man. I don't know. I say this, people say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." I'm like, well, yeah, sure. I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to know the truth, but I'm
Yeah.
not a coincidence theorist. I'm not going to go through life thinking everything is a big coincidence. So I'll entertain any conspiracy. I'll entertain it. I'm not going to say, oh, that's true or that's not true. But for me to go, there's no way that could be true. How do I know? How do I know? We don't know, right? Because everything we learned, if you think about it, everything we learned and the things that we hold the tightest onto is the truth. It was something that we were taught when we were like 8 years old, and it just came from a book. And then we got tested how well we memorized the book. But what if the book was lying to us? What if whoever wrote the book was lying to us? Right? It's really easy. We don't have discernment at 8, 9, 10 years old. And then if we're being taught that, well, if you memorize these things, we tell you the truth. And if you get a good grade, then we're going to say you're smart. But what if it was all a lie? Then how smart are we?
Not very, obviously. If
Not very,
you
right?
exactly.
We're well programmed, but we might not be that intelligent.
No, indeed. It was interesting. And you kind of mentioned that you had different foods. Was there like, what you would eat? So I was going to say, what foods would you eat? But as a vegan, you saying about the protein, you'd get the hemp seeds and that. Did you have, let's say, set foods, but was there things that you had? Did it change, for example, if you were on the road with the WWE, for example?
So I've always learned. I always carry a little like cooler bag with me. I
Yep.
always have food, right?
Mhm.
Because here's my thing: whether you're eating a vegan diet or a non-vegan diet, when you get done with a show and it's 11:30 at night, what are your options to eat? You're either eating at a convenience store, a gas station, or Wendy's. Those are good choices. And then you're paying. Here's the other thing I refuse to do. I'm not going to pay a premium price for low grade food,
Yeah.
right? When you want to eat conveniently, that's what you do. People say it's expensive to eat healthy. No, it's really not. It's expensive to eat conveniently,
Mm.
right? And so you pay for that convenience. If you want to just heat it up in the microwave in 90 seconds and eat it, well, that's going to cost you more money. You want to go through a drive-through and have them just put it in a bag and hand it to you. You're paying someone else to source the food, to cook the food, prepare it, right? Like, you pay for that. So I don't like paying a premium price for low quality food. I like to cook. I like to make my own food. I always have packets of, if I'm on the road, I'll always have some fruit in my bag, bananas or oranges, something like that. I'll always have some nuts or some seeds in my bag. I might have a couple of protein bars in case I need a quick meal. I'll carry packets of pre-cooked rice or pre-cooked lentils or beans or something like that. Like they make like Indian food pre-cooked,
Mhm.
curries and things. So if I'm in a pinch, I always have something with me. I'm never caught with my pants down and having to go buy some, $12 salad at some fast food joint, which is just going to be iceberg lettuce and so I'm saying. So um it does take just a little more. When I talk, because I go and I talk about this stuff too, right? I do different veg fests and talk about vegan lifestyle and being an athlete. Um, and so it's just we have everyone has resources. To me, our resources are our time, our money, and our energy. Okay. And everyone's breakdown of how much they have of each of those is a little different. Some people have a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of time. Some people have a lot of time, they don't have a lot of money. They got a lot of energy, they don't have a lot, right? You can't expect to put none of your resources on the table and get something back of value. And with food, we've been taught this crazy idea that I should put none of my resources into it. And in return, I should get something that's valuable back. Right? I don't want to spend my money on it. I want the cheapest food. Oh, I don't want to spend my time. Give me the quickest food I can get. I don't want to put any energy in the kitchen. Let me go through the drive-through. I want cheap, quick, and easy. Well, how do you put none of your resources in and expect to get anything of value back? So you got to figure out which one you want to put in. You don't want to cook, you don't want to spend time in the kitchen, then you're going to put your money forward for someone else to do that. You don't want to put your money forward, well, then you got to spend a little more time in the kitchen, make the food yourself, right? But you got to put some of your resources in. You got to put some value in if you want to get value back.
Yeah, no, definitely. Totally agree with that, by the way. But another question that they had was did they cater for it quite? Was there enough? Like, 'cause obviously we know that obviously there's catering backstage and stuff like that. Did they cater enough for vegetarians, or could they have done more to cater for the vegetarian lifestyle?
Everywhere I've gone, they always have a lot of food, but here's my thing. I get that I'm part of the 10% of the population or whatever it is, or 4% of the
Yeah,
population. Like, um, I don't expect the world to cater to me.
yeah.
Is my choice. I know I understand the world I live in, right? I'm always the anomaly. I get why people don't understand me. I'm always the anomaly, right? I broke it down at some point. It's like I'm part of I'm left-handed. So only 10% of the world's left-handed,
I'm one of
right?
them.
So I'm 1 out of 10 there,
Yep.
right? I'm part of 25% of the people in the world that didn't take any of the shots,
Mhm.
right? So I'm part of 1 out of 4 in the world that said no shots for me. I'm part of 1 out of 10 that's left-handed. I'm part of 4% that's vegan. So everywhere I go in my life, I'm the outlier. And I get it. So I'm misunderstood. I don't expect the world to cater to me. This is my choice. It's something I believe in. First thing I would do when I get into a town is I find the vegan spot or I find a Whole Foods or a health food store and I go and I stock up for my weekend or my day. And so whether or not catering had something for me or didn't have something for me, it didn't bother me. I brought my own food. I would always was prepared. I didn't expect them to cater to me because I have a different, philosophy on how to eat. Right. And so this never bothered me. I've done that in family functions. If I go to Thanksgiving, I bring my own food. I go to that's just how I roll. It's also an opportunity for me because, food's kind of one of my love languages is I get to share that with people who maybe would never be exposed to it. Right. So if there's many times at in WWE or TNA where I would come with some food that I brought. And all of a sudden, they're eating their food. They're kind of looking over at mine like, well, what do you got over there? That looks really good. Oh, yeah, it's this, and that. You want to try some? Sure. Like, oh, that's really good. Right. I remember after a Ring of Honor show I had in Philadelphia, had a bunch of people back and I made them some chicken nuggets, and they're, oh, these are great. It's like, yeah, they're a vegetarian. There's no chicken in them. Yeah. I remember, it was like, they couldn't believe it, so it's a cool opportunity because I'm not a preachy vegan. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. Now, I won't let you peddle bullshit to me as to why you can't do it,
Yeah.
right? That I won't stand for. And I've had many arguments with people, and I just tell them, listen, just say I don't give a fuck. Excuse my language,
No, that's fine. No, no, no.
right? But if you just say, hey, I don't care, I have then the discussion's over. I'm not here to tell you that you have to care. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. But I will not sit here and let you give me all the bullshit reasons that I've sorted through in my book, which is why I wrote the book, was to go through all, well, you need meat for protein, right? All these, it's expensive to eat healthy, plants have feelings too, all these ridiculous things that doesn't work for me. But I'm not here to preach to tell you how you should live your life. That's not my MO. But I do like the opportunity to expose people to these foods to dispel, like, hey, the stuff tastes good, it's good for you. There's levels to everything, right? And this is something else I teach people, when we're working on improving their diet. There's levels to this, right? Peanut butter, for example. Well, is peanut butter good or bad for you? Well, I don't know. What peanut butter? Because the peanut butter I buy is organic peanuts and salt, and that's the only two ingredients. Most peanut butter you buy is going to be non-organic GMO peanuts. It's going to have sugar in it, maybe one or two different kinds of sugar. It's going to have hydrogenated cottonseed oil, right? It's going to have all this other junk. There's levels to this, but you have to educate yourself. And the only way you do that is when you buy something, you have to turn it over. Don't forget about the front of the packaging, because that's all propaganda and salesmanship. You got to turn it over and read the ingredients list. And that is supposed to tell you what's in there. Now you know what you're actually buying. And most people don't do this. I can't put something in my shopping cart until I turn it over and read the ingredients list, because this tells me what it is. And so this is an important thing. And so I had a lot of people, I took a lot of heat for my stance on the type of medical procedures I was or wasn't okay with, the type of things I would inject in my body. And I'd explain to people that you don't even know what's in these things because you don't even read the ingredients lists on the foods you eat, much less the things that you're now injecting in your body. So don't come and tell me that I have to blindly take something without knowing what's in it, because that's not how I live my life. I try to make educated decisions, but I have to be the one to educate myself, because the system around us does not want people educated. They don't want educated people, because those are hard people to take advantage of. If you're educated, it's really hard to take advantage of you. And in a system that profits off of sick, stupid, unhappy people, don't expect them to educate you to keep you healthy or to make you happy, because that's not where the money is in this, unfortunately, in this system that we live in.
No, well, definitely not. That is for sure. One last question on the food part, because my colleague spoke to AJ Styles, funny enough, and he said that he would eat straight after a match because he's done his cardio. The match sees his cardio, running around the ring doing that. You burn off cardio. Is that something that you would do, or would you? Or do you? I know you said you have specific times that you would eat, and would it be straight after a match, or would it be later down the line?
I think it would vary for me. I mean, usually I would eat after a match, because usually leading up to the match, I don't eat a lot.
Hmm.
Right. So, like, when I got these shows coming up, like the day of the show, I don't like to eat real heavy. Part of it's because I'm trying to suck my belly in, and have abs. And if you eat a big, 6-inch sandwich or something, now your belly's hanging out. Um, but yeah, so right after the match, it's funny. So here's an example of this. People ask about the banana thing in the WWE.
Hmm.
Where'd that come from? Well, legitimately, after a match, as I walked back to the curtain, they had some snacks. And usually if I eat something after a match, it'll be some fruit, bananas, some oranges, something like that, replenish my carbohydrates, And so I literally grabbed a banana and a water right after my match. And then they wanted me to film a post-match interview segment. And so I like random, I like different, I like things that create intrigue, right? So I just kept the banana with me for the promo, just no reason, just to do it. And so I'm sitting there to do the promo, and so the writers were looking at me like, are you going to keep that banana with you for the promo? I was like, well, yeah, why not? It's right after a match. I legitimately grabbed this to eat, and I just happen to have it in my hand. And they're like looking at me like it's hard for them to wrap their head around this, because it wasn't written in the script. And well, are you going to say something about the banana? I was like, well, I wasn't planning on it. But then why do you have it? I was like, because I legitimately grabbed the banana after a match to eat, and you're having me kind of promo right after my match, and I have a banana in my hand. Okay, well, just try and see what happens. So I did the promo, and I said, now, if you excuse me, Dasha, I'm going to go replenish my potassium, and I walked off. And so they're like, okay, we'll do one more without the banana. Okay, yeah, no problem. No, I know how this works. So which take are they going to use, right? They're going to use the one without the banana because they can't figure out the banana part. So I did the one without the banana, and I ended that one with, now, if you excuse me, Dasha, I've got a bushel of bananas over there. I'm going to replenish my potassium. So the writer's like, well, wait a second. If you're going to say something about bananas, you might as well have the banana. Okay, good point. Right. So here's this whole thing, and like, so they're watching the different takes back, and the production guys are kind of giggling because I'm waving this banana around and this. And I said, guys, I said that was the point. The point is sometimes there doesn't need to be a point. Sometimes that is the point. I think one thing that's lost in wrestling is intrigue
Mm.
because we answer every question at the end of the hour or at the pay-per-view at the end of the month. Everything that's written has a purpose and a reason behind it, and there's nothing random. And so all of a sudden, when I started doing commentary for 205 Live, I just put the banana in my pocket square. So instead of a handkerchief, I had the banana there. And nobody really noticed until I was out there doing commentary. Why has he got a banana in his pocket? What's up with the banana? Yes, exactly. Well, but why? Yeah, exactly. If you have people asking questions and you've created intrigue, you're winning,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
winning. The minute I tell you why the banana, now you don't care anymore. Oh, good. I got my answer. The whole reason was there didn't need to be a reason. And the more you want to know why, the more I'm winning because I have intrigue. I've now piqued your curiosity. You're now interested to know. That's for me, part of the psychology of that was like the reason was that there doesn't need to be a reason. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, usually after a match, I'll grab a banana, I'll grab some oranges, something like that, just get some fluids back in me, and get some and kind of replenish the carbohydrates. I don't usually eat a big meal. I'll usually do that maybe an hour or two after, just because gotta let the adrenaline calm
Yeah.
down. I'm not really hungry after a match, but I do want to get some calories in me, replenish some of the vitamins and minerals and fluids that were lost.
Yeah, definitely. So, no, good. Thanks for that. Question now, because you mentioned the 205 commentary, and everyone mentions how in your ears they are during the commentary. Was that the same during 205 Live, or was it not as important as maybe a Raw or a SmackDown?
I don't think it was about importance. I think it was my role, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have to do any heavy lifting. I got a really easy gig, right? My job was just to get myself over on commentary until I transitioned to the program with Neville. So I wasn't being asked to do any bumpers or any of these things that the other guys had to do. So for me, I didn't get a lot of traffic directed to me in my ear
Yeah.
as much as the other guys would, right? Honestly, more than anything else, I would just hear Vince laughing half the time at some of the stuff I said. It's like, okay, I'm doing a good job because at the end of the day, I knew it when I went into that spot. That first night on 205 Live was probably the most pivotal and important night of my career there, which is weird for some people to hear, but it wasn't a match. It was really that night in commentary. Um, you know, Vince didn't know who I was. He may have heard of me, but he'd never watched me wrestle, and I certainly don't fit the archetype of what he looks for in a superstar, age wise or height wise, right?
Mm.
But I knew if I could entertain him on commentary, that he would see something in me because I knew it worked for other guys before me, guys that he didn't look at like a CM Punk or a Kevin Owens that maybe didn't fit his type. When he heard them talk and that they were good on the mic, he said, okay, I can do something with these guys. So that first night at 205 Live, I knew was a very important moment for me. And so I just really honestly catered my commentary towards Vince. And when you understand who Vince is and his sense of humor and so I remember the first match was a tag match with the Bollywood boys. And pretty early in the match, I think it might have been Byron said, "Yeah, I talked to the Bollywood boys today, and they said they're super excited to be in the WWE." I said, "Oh, I talked to them before you did, Byron. They told me they were just happy to be in a country that's got running water and indoor plumbing." And I just heard in my ear, "Ha ha ha!" I was like, "All right, I think I'm onto something here." And yeah, I got done with that, and I walked back to the gorilla position, and Vince was standing outside gorilla with his hands in his pocket, like a proud papa. God damn it! That was the best debut anybody's had on commentary in this country or in this company. That was, thank you. And so the story goes is originally the plan was to have a multi-man match at WrestleMania for the cruiserweights.
Yeah.
After my commentary, he decided to switch gears and do me and Neville at WrestleMania. So I always tell the story in this weird indirect way. Nakamura shattered my orbital bone in an NXT match.
Yeah.
Ended up being the best thing that happened in my career because it led me to WrestleMania. Right? It led me to commentary. Commentary led me to WrestleMania, and so it's a lesson for we don't always understand what the universe is doing. But
Mm.
if we just believe that it's working in our favor, it's working for us and not against us, we don't have to know the why or what the outcome is going to be. But sometimes the worst in the moment, the worst things that happen to us end up being the biggest blessings in hindsight. And so we just have to trust and believe in that process.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned WrestleMania. I was actually going to bring that up. What is it like, as you know, because of WrestleMania, Jesus. I mean, we see it. I've been out there 4 or 5 times to watch WrestleMania. But from a wrestling perspective, what is that day or that week like as a wrestler working for the WWE?
Stressful, man. It's stressful, you know. And it'd be nice if you could just really focus in and concentrate on the actual
Mm.
wrestling and the match part. But there's so many moving pieces. You got media. You're trying to get your wardrobe together because everyone wants to show out with the wardrobe. You know, for me, you know, being here in Florida when I went in 33, family and friends want to attend. So you're trying to coordinate the tickets and their travel and make sure everyone knows where they're going. You know, it's a lot, and you know, so when you really understand that, it's quite amazing the production that they're able to pull together and all the people behind the scenes that you don't see, you know, that are working just as hard, the travel people putting all the travel together, you know, the transportation, the media guys, the PR people, you know, setting the venue up. I mean, the venue setup alone is mind boggling. There's just so much to it that when you actually walk out of the curtain and you just get to like, okay, good. It's like almost like this, you know, sigh of relief of like, okay, now I can just go do the part I really, really enjoy, which is just the performing, the wrestling part. And it's kind of like, good, we made it, you know? Um, so yeah, it was quite the ordeal. And but obviously it's, you know, it's the thing that everyone's working towards and you know, grateful that I got the experience and the opportunity.
I enjoyed that as well with Neville. With W. Well, it was obviously the pre-show, wasn't it? If I remember rightly, 33. But it was incredible. I liked it. I'll go.
Kickoff
Kickoff.
show.
Sorry, not pre-show.
I got, I was corrected on that many times. It's not a pre-show. It's the kick. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Semantics matter. Sorry.
Kickoff show. Sorry, I
Kickoff
do
show.
remember it. Yeah, it was.
Hey,
It,
I'll say this, man, because I've been to some other, you know, I've been to WrestleManias before that, and I think, you know, I was proud to see how many people were in the stadium in their seats, ready to watch because they didn't want to miss it.
yeah.
It was a
No, it's
pretty,
true.
and so you know, that was like, hey, if you're not ready, you're gonna miss one of the best matches of the night because we're going on first. You
Yeah,
know, we're
exactly that. No, but people, and I think people that with an understanding of wrestling will actually know when you heard the name Neville, when you heard the name Austin Aries, you knew what you were going. Like, you knew it was going to be great, and you people then they wanted to get. Like, I wanted to watch the kickoff show because I knew that was happening, and you guys were both two wrestlers that I enjoyed watching for so many years. So knowing you two were together, I was like, this is must watch for me. I need to watch that kickoff show because of that reason. But WrestleMania week is also you've got so much media as well, right? And autograph signings and God knows what else, access. And I mean, it must take a lot out of you before you even get to the day itself.
Yeah, it really is. And for me, obviously, it was my first experience with it in
Yeah.
that role. So it was a lot. And I remember thinking, like, man, like this should be like the happiest moment of my life. And there's a part of me that's just like, just can we get this over with already? You know,
Yeah.
like can we just get this over with? And so, I think that's one thing. I spent 18 years of my career outside of that system, and getting in that system, it's a whole different beast, and you learn, um, you know, what it entails to do that. And the guys that have longevity, again, like like the Rollins and the Owens or the Cenas and the Romans, um, the level of commitment it takes to do that schedule for that time period. I don't think that should be lost on anybody because it's not easy.
No.
I was only there 18 months, and I never felt like I really got my footing because things were always changing. It was first NXT, and then I got injured. Then I was on commentary, and then from commentary, now I'm actually on the main show. And I never quite settled into a routine or to really feel like I got like, okay, got my traction of here's how it is, because it happens fast, man. The schedule's fast. And then for me, a lot of my career, I would go do a weekend of shows or tapings and then have the rest of the week to hit the gym hard and eat right. And maybe those 2 days that I was doing TV were my days off where I didn't worry about, maybe I got a pump or something before the show, but I wasn't really hitting the gym hard. And when I got to WWE, it's flipped. Like you got maybe a day and a half, 2 days at home. So you have to learn how to train on the road and eat right on the road and recover on the road. And it was exact like opposite of what I'd spent my whole career doing, where I would have 3 or 4 days of super intense wrestling and this, and then I'd have maybe a week or two where I get to go, okay, let me get back in the gym, let me, recover, let me eat right. And so that was a big adjustment. And I'll be honest, like I didn't really adjust that well, as I would have liked to, as far as my training schedule and recovery schedule. It was intense, and it comes fast.
Yeah, I
And
can
then the
imagine.
expectation and the pressure is there, like, because everyone wants their spot,
Yeah.
and there's so many different masters you're trying to serve, and there's a certain structure of how this is, and they have their way that they want you to do it, even if you've done it a different way your whole career, like you do it this way now. And it was, it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
I can imagine it's a lot to take it. And time probably goes like that as well, right? Literally.
It's moving so fast that the feeling I got, especially like from writers, was, and I think why maybe I drove some of them nuts, was I'm an attention to detail guy, and I'm a guy who will comb over something 100 times to just make sure like we can't tweak it or do it a little differently or a little better.
Hmm.
And the sense I got there was like, hey man, we don't care because we have to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
We don't have time to make sure everything we do is absolutely perfect. We just got to get it out. We're in the business of content, 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 merchandise, merchandise, merchandise. And the quality, whether it's a B plus or an A minus or an A, we don't care. We just need to spit this out. And we don't have time. If everyone was like you, like if everyone was an Austin Aries and spent all this time, we'd never be able to get through this.
Yeah.
So it was, and it wasn't to be a pain in the ass or be difficult. It was just, this is what's worked for me. It's like, I want to make sure if I'm going to go out there and do this promo or do this match, like I want to make sure this is the best we can do. And that system there, it's like, because it is moving so fast, they have to balance the quality with the speed of just getting it out.
Hmm.
It's like McDonald's, man. It's like, we can't make sure every burger is absolutely exquisite and perfect because we're selling a billion of these things. So
Yeah.
we need it to a certain level so that we can spit a billion out.
Get it. Get it.
No one goes to McDonald's for a gourmet hamburger.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Last two questions on sort of WWE style before we start going back to the last bit about you coming back to the UK and independence. This is an interesting one because it always gets a different answer depending on who you ask. And it was what A, either growing up or B, when you were there, what was your favorite entrance music from a wrestler? Not necessarily yours.
Oh, I mean, again, I'll show where I, give me Iron Man for the Road Warriors
Yeah.
all day. I mean, when Man, when you heard that, you knew someone was just about to get beat up. Especially if it was like an enhancement match, right? It was just
Yeah.
like, and you heard that, you're like, oh, these guys
Yeah.
are about to get destroyed. And so that's one that, I mean, that's one of the first original ones that sticks
Yeah.
out. You know, I mean, I'm gonna go again. I'm dating myself of the wrestling I grew up with. Um, Tom Sawyer,
Yeah.
was Kerry Von Erich, right? I
Yeah.
think out to that, right? That was the golden age when they first started using music for entrances. Um, yeah. I'll always be Iron Man, man. That was just always like, oh man, someone's about to get destroyed.
A really underrated one that maybe people won't, because it's not necessarily like it wasn't the music as such. It was, you kind of knew what was coming. Do you remember Earthquakes?
I don't know.
It was just like,
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah,
that was it. That was it. But it was like
right, yeah,
you heard it, and you were like, hold on a minute, what? And then
yeah,
this big guy, fought. I remember listening to that,
yeah,
and even to this day, we were talking to the guy that does the music for AEW, and he was like, sometimes it's that one beat, that one hit of a song, like Austin's
sure.
Glass Smash, right? Bang.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or if you smell, I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what it is, you know. Um, Again, I didn't really grow up watching a lot of WWE. Like
Yeah.
I did, but it wasn't my flavor,
Yeah.
right? So, um, for me, when they were able to use music from the radio,
Yeah.
but I think that's why Iron Man works so well because it
Yeah.
has that. It's just like yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like it's like
Yeah.
somebody's in trouble.
I think I remember Vince Russo using that in WCW.
Would surprise me.
Sure that he did. Anyway, that's for another chat, another day. The last one for this was, and this is one. It's obviously, look, it's Royal Rumble season, right? We've been in the
Okay.
Royal Rumble, there's obviously surprise entrances happen all the time.
Right.
So if, and I know you don't watch a lot of wrestling, 'cause we spoke just about before we started, but if Austin Aries had to select a surprise entrant in this year's Royal Rumble, who would you choose and why?
Austin Aries, because it'd be a nice payday, you know. Plus a small portion of the internet community, just their heads would explode. They would be so angry. They'd be so angry. They would be so very angry if that happened, right? Then most people would be like, "Who's this guy? Who's this midget coming to the ring? Oh, they got midgets in this Royal Rumble this year. Who is this?" Right? Yeah. Uh, so taking that answer off, geez, who could I think of? Um, I mean, most of my answers are just probably like ridiculous answers, right? Like
Right.
just for like the entertainment value or something. Um, yeah, I mean, there's who would it be? Who would be the one? Who would be the one? Right? Iron Sheik.
There you go.
Could we do the Iron Sheik again? That would be pretty crazy.
Well, it would
Um,
be quite incredible. Is he not passed away?
you know what I'm saying? Like it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's so many good ones that I mean, even like Flair coming out, like you thought I retired, like
Yeah.
hey,
Well, I mean, they could go full whack and put Vince McMahon out there, right?
I mean that would be pretty amazing, right? But like plausible ones, like I mean, like I would love to see Triple H.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
plausible, and like I know that maybe he can't, I don't know what his condition is to do in ring stuff, but I'm sure he could do a spot in the Royal Rumble. And I think that reaction would be pretty bananas. And that's certainly plausible,
Yeah.
especially if it was like Shawn Michaels, and then like right after him out came, like what if they did like four in a row and it was like all DX?
Yeah.
Like
That'd
that
be
would be
great.
cool, right?
Yeah.
Because it'd be like it would just like we keep building, and you're like, oh my god, it's X Pac, like oh shit, it's Road Dogg, and it's like oh my god, it's Shawn Michaels, and then the last oh my Triple H, and then like they're all four of them are in there. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be. But to be fair,
Um,
I'd pop if you come out. So that
I
would
mean,
be.
from a business standpoint, like that'd be my favorite. That'd be my favorite. You
Yeah.
know, like I got like and I have like the 205 live title on. It was like, oh, that's still around. Like, what happened? It's like, yeah, I beat Enzo for it on some indie show up in Boston that nobody saw. Like uh, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, man, we could talk an hour about like how cool, like there'd be a lot of cool ones. Like, hey man, wouldn't it be cool to see Goldust back, even though we know we
Oh,
just signed with AEW? But if like,
yeah.
what if Cody came out as
Stardust.
Stardust and then Goldust came out? Like, I don't know, like just there's that's kind of the cool thing. Like with the landscape, there'd be so many. What if a Scott Demore came out?
Oh,
Think
jeez.
everyone would know? Like that'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely so. I still would choose you anyway, but that's
What's
me.
that?
I would choose you out of all of those.
Yeah, no, me too. That's the
Yeah.
final answer. Austin
Fine.
Aries.
Final answer, Austin. That'd be great. As we start to wrap up, Austin, look, you're coming over 2025. We're looking very much forward to it. What have the British fans that haven't seen you before got to look forward to when you come over here?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not a whole lot, to be honest. No. Is one thing I do kind of like. It's like, hey man, like I'm not the same Austin Aries from 2012 or even 2018. Um, as a wrestler, but also just as Daniel, like the person, right?
Yeah.
Like I took a year and a half and I, completely outside the wrestling bubble and just really went and did some work on myself because I'd spent my whole adult life in the pro wrestling bubble, really owning this character of Austin Aries and believing it. Um, and so it was an important journey for me uh, to get outside that bubble for a while to really figure some things out on a personal level. And so coming back into wrestling, I don't view it the same. I don't view myself as the same, but I still love to perform, and I still think I can do it at a high level. And so, one thing I really think that I bring to the table now is a level of authenticity when I step in the ring that maybe we're not seeing in the current product,
Yeah.
believability, right?
Yeah.
Um, and someone who really takes his craft seriously. And I know we know wrestling's not real, uh, but I think that we can still treat it because to me it's supposed to be rooted in the suspension of disbelief to make you believe that it's real or to not know where the line of fact and fiction is. And so I still hold on to that and I try to bring that to my matches where they go, well, we know this stuff is fake, but man, that match right there, I don't know about that. That really felt real. And so I just try to bring that intensity and that authenticity and that realism to the art of pro wrestling.
Yeah. And what did you learn about yourself during that time away?
Um, man, I learned a lot. I learned a lot just about philosophy of life
Yeah.
and to not take things here so seriously. Um, you know, that could be a whole separate podcast on my journeys into plant medicines and DMT and ayahuasca and experiencing what I call God to me, which is it's a vibration, it's energy, it's love, it's unconditional love and peace, and really an ego death, right? And so, um, it's weird. Pro wrestling is probably one of the most ego driven businesses in the world, right? Because it's not based on any true merits. It's all about whose ego is bigger than whose ego, and it's a popularity contest, and we hold it. And to be successful, I think we have to really hug it tight and believe it, and really, and stepping away from that, I kind of look back and I just it kind of makes me giggle a little bit, when I watch it. It's kind of funny. It's a cool form of entertainment, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's entertainment, and it's another distraction. And so sometimes it's good to force yourself to not be distracted and to really face whatever it is you're trying not to deal with. And so for me, it's just about not taking any of this too seriously, the accolades or the criticism, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um, people are going to believe what they want to believe. They're going to go through their life based on their own lens and their own experiences, and that's not a reflection of you. When people we talked a little bit about this before we started the podcast, but the negativity that can be found not just in pro wrestling, but in any genre, in any niche field. Um, Something I've learned is that when people attack you with negativity, it's a reflection of what's going on with them internally. It's not necessarily a reflection of you. And you know, people who are doing better than you, people who are happy in their life, don't spend their time trying to tear other people down.
Yeah.
And so it's a good reminder that when people come with negativity, this says more about what they're dealing with internally than it does about who you are as a person. And so with that, instead of matching that negativity with more negativity, try to find compassion for that person and what they're going through. And so something I've taken from Ram Dass, who's a kind of, if you're familiar with Ram Dass, but he's one of these new age spiritual gurus. His birth name was Richard Halpert. He was a professor, I think, at Stanford or Harvard or one of these prestigious universities. And then he went on a psychedelic journey and went to India and studied under Maharaji, his guru. But he just said, we're all just trying to help walk each other home. It's something to remember. We're all going to the same place. We're all going to take a little different path to get there. So just help walk each other home. But everything we do in life, lead with compassion and humor, right? Love and humor. Just have love and humor. So if you lead with love, you lead with humor, you'll be able to get through anything. And so I think those are things I learned on my journey, and to let go of some of those things that maybe were holding me back or holding me hostage from being free. Everyone says, I want to be at peace. I want to be happy. I want to be peace. But Ram Dass says you want to be free. And sometimes you have to decide, do you want to be right, or do you want to be free? Right. Mm-hmm. And so even righteous anger still holds you hostage, so you have to let go of the anger and just be free.
And there you go. Heard it from the man himself. And now, before we wrap up, where are we going to find Austin Aries? And are you accepting bookings? And if you are, where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I still dabble on the social media, Twitter at Austin Aries, Instagram, Austin Healy Aries. I got the little check mark on the Instagram.
Yep.
I just set up a whole separate email just specifically for bookings because my other one was getting so inundated with spam. So that's booking Austin Aries at gmail.com, booking Austin Aries at gmail.com. Also, if you were interested in a copy of the book Food Fight, you can find that, I believe, on my Pro Wrestling Tee store, or you can email me at bookingaustinaries at gmail, and I can send you out a copy of the book. And and then come March, let me make sure I got my dates here. I got my calendar. March 14th, 15th, and 16th. I'll be in the Liverpool, Manchester area for PCW UK. And then the following weekend, I'll be in the Pool area for BCD. I got a 2-day seminar there, and then I'll be wrestling 2 shows that weekend on the 21st and 22nd. So if you haven't seen me live in action for a while or ever, come check it out. Come say hi, and we'll have a good time.
Definitely so. You heard it from the manager. Definitely come and see Austin Aries when he's over here in the UK. And Austin Aries, wherever he is in the world, if you are there, make sure that you see him. But Austin, it's been great to talk to you. It's one off my bucket list that I can tick off.
Awesome.
I've had so much fun listening to you. It's been an insightful, interesting story and bits and pieces that you've told us for us. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to come and talk to me. And we will wish you the best of luck in 2025.
Take care, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. Guys, that has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with Austin Aries and me, Adam Cousins. Until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.